Chapter 12:23, That Level. Who am I? Just as Klein was about to remove the historical void projection, he was taken aback by Ammon's question. He controlled himself and didn't frown. Instead of answering, he asked, "You are Ammon's true body." Standing at the edge of the cliff, Ammon took a step forward and smiled. "Of course not. You seem to know my true body or my other avatars." Although the Ammon in front of him didn't take any action, the step he took still gave Klein an indescribable pressure. It wasn't easy for him to keep still without retreating, which would betray his cowardice. He grunted and replied in a low voice, "That's why I'm curious as to why you don't know me." "Are you very famous?" said the Ammon who had crawled out of the darkness. He then raised his hand and adjusted his crystal monocle on his right eye. This action lasted for a few seconds before it came to an end. As though in thought, Ammon muttered, "There are no other me's nearby. Are there really none, or has the connection been completely severed? What kind of accident caused this Ammon to be independent? No way, I can't believe this fellow's acts. He is a top-notch swindler." Klein's heart stirred at first before he suppressed his corresponding thoughts and asked, "Why did you crawl out from underground?" Ammon's expression returned to normal as he chuckled. "Guess. Be it his actual body or his avatars, the fact that he has a terrible personality doesn't change." Klein thought to himself and tried to probe with an answer. "You are exploring the secret that lays underground." Ammon nodded slightly and said, "Isn't that obvious?" He then half-turned his body and pointed at the darkness beyond the cliff that the light failed to light up. "My father crawled out of here just like I did." "Ah, right, it has a name. You should have heard of it, Chaos Sea." "Chaos Sea? The Chaos Sea, one of the 9 Sephirots. It is indeed hidden deep underground. Is the corruption behind the bronze door really brought about by it? Previously, I was made aware of this mysticism knowledge through my casual chats with Ammon. The ancient sun god was originally a member of this research facility. Then, he fell into the deep depths of the Chaos Sea, only to awaken in the second epoch and crawl out. As he was only an ordinary person back then, based on the law that proximity to the underground increases in danger with higher sequences, he wasn't affected too much." Klein's mind raced as he recalled many matters and came up with various guesses. 3 seconds later, he said in response, "So you took the risk and jumped in to search for the truth of the buried history and the world." "Something like that." Ammon Man pinched the edge of his monocle and said in a self-deprecating tone, "But I didn't do it willingly." "Ah," Klein used a terse exclamation to express his doubts. Ammon smiled and said, "Every single one of me knows that it's very dangerous deep underground. We don't want to go down alone. We have tried many detours, including creating a marionette to replace us. However, we failed to succeed and failed to obtain any feedback. In the end, under the True Body's watch, we held a fair vote. Unfortunately, I was chosen. It's a miracle that Ammon hasn't completely gone mad yet, as expected of the god of mischief. Internal decisions have to be done in such a way." Klein resisted the urge to lampoon. "And then you jumped down yourself." "What else? Let them throw me down," Ammon said as he spread his hands. Having said that, he seemed to finally understand something as he muttered to himself, "The Chaos Sea made me sever ties with my main body and the surrounding avatars. Am I independent?" Independent? Previously, in front of the bronze door of the Hall of Truth, I felt that every cell and every worm of spirit were giving birth to a new consciousness, generating a different form of self. It's very normal for there to be similar changes in Ammon's avatar after directly entering the Chaos Sea. An independent Ammon avatar should be able to effectively trick Ammon's true body. No, I can't trust him. Klein validated Ammon's words using his own experience, but he quickly reminded himself not to trust the god of deceit. He smiled and said, "I suspect you're bluffing." Ammon held up the crystal monocle and sized up Klein for a few seconds. "It doesn't matter whether you believe me or not. Even if I want to find a partner, it wouldn't be someone as weak as you. In the era of the 8 Kings of Angels, were you very close to Red Angel Medici?" Having made up his mind not to trust the independence of the Ammon in front of him, Klein tried asking, "What did you discover in the Chaos Sea?" "Plenty of things, guess what they are," Ammon said with a smile. You didn't discover anything, Klein said deliberately. Ammon shook his head. The other me's probably think so too. Besides, I haven't been out for a very long time, and I didn't respond. It's logical to believe that I had already been corroded and was digested by Chaos C. Without waiting for Klein's response, Ammon continued. Chaos C is very large. It almost fills the core and goes to a further layer. It's also the only Sephra that merges the real and the illusory and has an entrance in the real world. The others are either completely illusory and hidden somewhere unknown, or they're definitely real while existing in the real world. I found something very interesting inside. The first blasphemy slate was likely born there, but it was later attracted by some power and left the ground before it was complete. My father might have browsed through that blasphemy slate in the beginning, which is why his condensed into the second blasphemy slate when he perished. This is the origins of the two blasphemy slates. It's no wonder the ancient sun god was so powerful in the late stages of the second epoch. Klein vaguely understood something and subconsciously asked, "What's so different about the two blasphemy slates?" Ammon adjusted the crystal monocle and said, "The second blasphemy slate changed some of the sequence names and added content. Those contents contain secrets about transcending sequences." Transcending sequences? Klein's pupils widened slightly. He felt that his long-term guess had been confirmed. Become the creator. Ammon smiled and said, "More or less, but this description isn't accurate enough. I like to refer to that level as above the sequences. There are also a number of true deities who name it in other ways. Some call it great old ones, others refer to it as outer deities or cosmos." Cosmos. The moment Klein heard this term, his spiritual intuition began to give crazy warnings. He remembered very clearly that the ascetic leader of the Church of Evernight, Ariana, had told him before that unless he became an angel, he shouldn't attempt to understand the cosmos. Otherwise, just having knowledge of it would bring him great danger. Without any hesitation, Klein, who had been hiding in the historical void, in a time before the first epoch, gave up maintaining the projection. He stood up from the stacked cities of old, and he took 4 steps counterclockwise. Almost at the same time, the violent lightning that streaked across the sky of the forsaken land of the gods calmed down. The endless darkness vanished as well. A gigantic crimson moon covered half the sky. The light on the surface of the crimson moon stretched out as if it was alive. Outside this world, the moon that was revolving around the earth had a crimson sea flowing. It drowned everything, as though it was digesting this huge natural satellite. The blood-colored sea boiled when Klein learned about the news of great old ones, outer deities, and cosmos. They quickly gathered towards the middle, constantly piling together until they formed an indiscernible, blood-red phantom image. This phantom image was many times bigger than the moon. It had countless eyes, and it looked down at the blue planet. It cast its gaze at Klein's main body through the connection that was established the moment he learned about these matters. As the crimson sea receded, many craters appeared on the surface of the moon. From the ground, the moon no longer crimson. It was bright and clear. It had remained the same despite the hundreds of millions of years. Further out in space, the brown star, orange star, scarlet planet, gold planet, and blue planet twinkled like the blinking of eyes. In the fog of history, boils began to emerge from the surface of Klein's body. Each boil had a mutated worm of spirit. They wore the faces of Joe Mingrui, Klein Moretti, Jayaman Sparrow, and Dwayne Dance. They were trying their best to drill out of his body. Klein's thoughts quickly turned chaotic. His entire spirit body seemed to be torn apart by an invisible blade, but he still forced himself to finish reciting the last sentence of the incantation. The celestial worthy of heaven and earth for blessings. Silently, Klein's spirit body tore through the gray fog and entered Sephra Castle. The power of the entire space began to boil as it surged forward and enveloped him, melting away wisps of black gas, streams of red light and boils, severing the invisible connection. Nearly 10 seconds later, the struggling Klein finally regained consciousness. He stood up using the high-back chair as support. Inside Chernobyl, Ammon, who was standing at the edge of the cliff, said to himself in a low voice as he adjusted the crystal monocle on his right eye, quite a fast reaction. If Klein had been a second slower and was embroiled in that chaotic state, Ammon could deceive the connection between the projection and the actual body before Klein could remove the maintenance of the historical projection. He could then appear inside the corresponding historical fragment. Above the gray fog, Klein sat down and rubbed his temples. That Ammon was indeed lying. He should be the avatar that stayed behind to guard Chernobyl. When he discovered that I had come, he hid somewhere between the cliff and the Chaos Sea, pretending that he had just crawled out. He was unable to deal with my main body by bypassing the historical projection. Furthermore, he might not have the strength of a Sequence 2 angel. Therefore, he pretended to be an independent avatar so as to carry out the deceit. On the surface, he attempted to make me believe that he was an independent avatar and could be cooperated with. He made me focus on this aspect, but in fact, he concealed the danger in his words. Even in a normal conversation with the god of deceit, one can still be scammed. However, in order to achieve his goals, he had also given a sufficient amount of secrets.